Good afternoon, evening. Today is Sunday, the 13th of Nissan. Tonight, right after Marav, we do the formal search for chametz. Today is April 21st. Tomorrow is Erev Pesach. And tomorrow night is the first Seder. So it's a very exciting time. But we have to learn a little bit of Tanya to get our heads focused. Why do we do all that we do? We do because Hashem loves us. Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim. Hashem promised us that if we serve Him, He will reward us and make the world a better place but it's going to be our effort, and we have to put our effort into it. So every mitzvah has an inner significance, further developing the relationship between Hashem, who is always in the presence of man, to see if he's serving him properly, and the person performing the mitzvah. A person ought to contemplate on this inner significance while performing that mitzvah. Shalom. Can you do me a favor and go into the kids' room and grab the orange chayinu that's sitting there? We just touched base on yesterday's chayinu. In today's lesson, when a person accepts Hashem's sovereignty before study or performance, that's what it was yesterday. Before you put on a talis or tefillin, it was on Shabbos, we learned this, so we were focusing on the talis, that before you do that, you realize that you're not just saying a bracha and throwing a talis over your head. You're actually connecting to HaKadosh Baruch Hu with this mitzvah, with this connection. And it should take a person should take pause and think, wow, not just am I connecting to Hashem, but I'm bringing His blessing into me. So especially a mitzvah like talis, where you wrap it around yourself, you bring Hashem close to you. That was yesterday. And today, when a person accepts Hashem's sovereignty before study or performance of a mitzvah, his divine service is termed a perfect service. If he's thinking about himself, okay, now I know the halacha. Okay, now I have to daven, so I'm just going to daven quickly. We have to go do something else. But when a person stops and thinks, Hashem is waiting for me to thank Him, to accept Him, to fear Him, to love Him, and then you go into daven, that's called a perfect service. Vatifas tzitzis. When a person puts on the tzitzis, let's also use that for the talis, because when we're married, we say the bracha on the talis, but Shalom still says the bracha on tzitzis every day, right? Once you get married, the day after you get married, you don't say the bracha on your tzitzis, you say it on the big tzitzis. The talis. The tzitzis is actually called the talis katan. So either way, it's a talis. Vatifas tzitzis. A person should think to himself what's written in the Zohar, that he should draw himself upon himself, Hashem, His blessed kingdom. This is what a person thinks when he's putting on a talis. He's drawing upon himself that Hashem is the master of the world, the king of the universe. Asher malchus kol olamim. And Hashem's kingdom is all the worlds, not just the physical world, but all the spiritual worlds as well. And Hashem's kingdom becomes, well, let's back up. Nevertheless, we should intend and endeavor to focus God's kingdom specifically over ourselves through this mitzvah. The commandment of tzitzis is particularly effective in enhancing one's accepting of the yoke of heaven. Why? Because it represents all the 613 mitzvahs, which are connections to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. This is similar to the commandment you should surely say, a king over yourself. Who's the king? Hashem. In such a case, meaning having contemplated this matter, even though after all this meditation, a person has no dread or fear that comes to him in his heart. Nevertheless, nevertheless, since he accepts the kingdom of heaven upon himself and draws upon himself the fear of Him, of Hashem, in his conscious thought and rational volition, the Kabbalah. So imagine you're a servant of a king, and you're there every day. You're not constantly nervous and worried in front of the king. You're honored. You become accustomed to it. But the fact that you accepted Him as your king, and whatever He wants you to do, you're going to do, that alone, in and of itself, is very, very special. So when you accept Hashem, where are you going? But I'm talking to you. So when he accepts upon himself the kingship, even if he's not full of dread and fear and awe and everything else, he still has this submission. there's a complete submission to Hashem. And the fear of Hashem, even if it's not like palpable fear, but it's like you already accepted God as your king, is beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's a sincere submission to Hashem. For it is the nature of all Jewish souls not to rebel against HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Shaharehi teva nafshes kol Yisrael shalei limroid v'melech HaKadosh Yisparich. Harei HaTorah shalemet oy hamitzvah she'oiseh mechamas kabbalah zu mechamas hamshachas hayira shebemochei nikreis b'shem avodah shlema. Okay, so we're not talking about it now, but the idea that, well, how could a person who accepts God as the king and learns the Torah and is sincere and does the mitzvahs and is ready for Pesach and is gonna, get rid of all the chametz and eat the matzah and stay up late and the bara and the 4 cups of wine and everything else, how could it be that somebody would go against Hashem? So every single Yid would not do that, would not rebel. It says it right here. What happens? So the Yetzer Hara comes and he has his ways and he has his shtick, and a person doesn't sin unless, and we learned this in the Maimer, if a person says it's just a stupidity. Because a lot of times, something may happen, and then a person says, why would you do such a thing? And if a person's being honest, he'll go, I don't know, it's just stupid. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. It was a moment of weakness. It was a moment of stupidity. But here we say that every single Yid, right, Steve? Every single Yid accepts Hashem and is completely subservient, would never go against the king, especially the king who takes care of him, who loves him. This is not a dictatorship type of king. This is not a king that subjugates his subjects to all sorts of difficult and painful experiences. And he takes care of them to the best that anyone could ever imagine. So we said this already. So when a person studies Torah, he studies over the commandments he performs because of the submission to the heavenly yoke, and because of the fear that he has drawn into his mind, that are termed complete service of the kind that could result only from a fear of Hashem, as the Alter Rebbe now goes on to say. So in our hearts, we all have that natural love and fear, even if when we're putting on our talis, we're thinking to ourselves, I'm completely given over to Hashem, and I'm ready to connect to him and receive his brachas. Why are you not trembling? It's included in the whole picture, but you're standing in front of the king every single day. And after a while, you don't tremble, you're not scared, but you're privileged. All the time, you go to your friends, whenever you're traveling, and they go, what do you do? Me? I'm a servant of the king. You are? Wow. So it's very, very special, and it's all included. Like all service performed by a servant for his master, which of course is prompted by fear and awe. Of course, when a person is serving the king, they're very careful what they say. It brings to mind, Ruben, you'll appreciate this. It brings to mind the maskir, Rabbi Groner. No matter how many years and how much, how comfortable he was standing next to the Rebbe, he was always on the edge of his, on his tiptoes, walking on eggshells. You're still standing in front of the Rebbe, like it could be 40 years. But nevertheless, you have to be very careful with every single word. So imagine a real king, somebody who works for the president or for a king or whatever. You have to be very careful. Eventually, you don't have that fear and trepidation every single day, but you're in an unbelievable opportunity, and that's what every Yid shares. Every Yid is a servant of the king, and when they do a mitzvah and they learn Torah, it's a complete service. As long as when they're putting on the talis, and they're doing the tefillin, and they're davening the Shemona Esrei, they're having in mind Melech Malchei Amlachim. So all this could be accomplished by arousing, even only in his mind, at least a minimal level of fear, by utilizing it in the study of Torah and the performance of the mitzvahs. Again, it's important to think about it, but it doesn't mean they're always trembling. When you're davening Yom Kippur and you say, that's a fearful moment. Who shall live? Who shall die? And it goes through all the different ways a person might die this year. Maybe that's more of a dread moment, but in front of the king. So you just have to remember who you're standing in front of. And at least that's a good level to approach learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. Put yourself in that position of, even though it's just a little bit of fear, but it goes a long way. So contemplation that will arouse the fear of Hashem before putting on tzitzis, that Hashem is the king, and now I am now accepting him upon myself and his sovereignty. So that's what we're going to do. Now we're going to daven mincha, and then right after Ma'ariv, we're going to search for the chametz. And it's not a joke. You're going to look with the candle and the spoon. This is the holy mitzvah. We're going to say a bracha, and we're going to say many, traditional words that go all the way back from the Yetzias Mitzrayim. So we have to take it seriously. And it's actually our custom to prolong it, to really, yes, of course, somebody knows where it's hidden. And, if you can't find it, you can look on the paper. But it's all part of the process. And then tomorrow morning, we're going to burn the chametz, and we're going to stop, eating chametz at a certain time, and we're going to burn it. And then we're going to prepare for the Seder. And it's very important to if a person has an opportunity to catch a nap, that it shouldn't be so exhausting. It's going to be so late. This is the chance that we have to connect to Kadosh Baruch Hu, Leil Shimurim, the night that God watches over us, and the night that we connect through humility, the matzah, and then the maror, and the 4 cups of wine, and all the important things. Even Shulchan Aruch, even eating the delicious meal, even if it does go late, it's a very, very important thing. So, and on that note, we're going to get ready for mincha and have a wonderful, happy, kosher Pesach. We'll do one more shir before Yad. That is on to everyone.